We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
And welcome back, everybody, to episode 20 of the JEB Board Podcast. This is Grayson Applin here in Atlanta, Georgia, sending out our script to our group message. That way everybody can keep a track alongside. We've got the full crew this week. Got Brandon Black, Brandon Blown Black in Leeds, Alabama. Nick Noah, Caleb Naylor out of Mobile, and then Kyle out of the snowy South Canada. The divisional round has come to pass this week in the NFL. I believe everybody's favorite team in this group message has now officially, or a group message in this Zoom chat has officially exited the playoffs. Sorry, my team was carrying, but it is now open field on for favoritism in here. It's like nobody really has a favorite team, even though I'm pretty sure everybody's
pulling for the Lions.
That's what I was about to say. Everybody is pulling for the Lions. If you're not pulling for the Lions, you're either a 49ers fan or a communist. So,
Kyle?
No, big time Lions.
I was about to say
Communist.
Yeah.
Our team.
Call me Kyle.
We are now a Detroit Lions podcast.
Yeah, for the next couple weeks, absolutely. Like, I'm very excited, man. Like I told Eagles correspondent Dalton that there was only one team that obviously I wanted the Bucs to go to the Super Bowl, right? But there was only one team that I was really okay with them losing to, and it was the Lions. So like I don't really have a problem with if the Lions can get one. I think it's funny. I keep seeing the pictures of the kid holding a sign. It's like, this is my first Lions game, and it's like a 6-year-old child, and you got people on Twitter calling him a fucking bandwagoner.
You know, I think, is it also safe to say that everyone on this podcast wants the Super Bowl to be the Lions and the Ravens, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't want to see the Chiefs. I don't want to see the 49ers. I mean, I don't know. I feel like that, number one, I feel like that would probably honestly be the best game.
I think so too. Too.
Because I feel like the 49ers and the Ravens would be like a defensive stalemate game. And I know that kind of contradicts how they played against the Texans this past week, but the 49ers has the top 2 defense in the league, or 1 or 2 defense, and the 49ers has the other 1 or 2, like depending on how you're looking at it. So I just don't. I feel like it would be, well, who is it? The Patriots and the Rams in 2020 or 2019, when it was just a terrible game to watch because it was like
9-0.
Yeah, it was like 12-3 or something.
It was 13-3, and the losing quarterback was Jared Goff.
Yeah, so
Rams should have never been there.
Yeah, it should have been the Jaguars.
I will say, though, I think we're okay with any kind of combination of Ravens or the 49ers or Lions. Like, I'm okay even if it is Ravens 49ers, as long as we're not trying to see the two-peat with the Chiefs.
Yeah, I'm a diehard Lions fan, as you all know, but like I have to say, like, Lamar Jackson's too good of a damn quarterback to not get a Super Bowl. So, you know, if it ends up just being the Ravens against the 49ers, you know, I would love nothing more than see Lamar Jackson finally get a ring.
I can see Kyle just like fuming right now. The fact that you just said that.
Yeah, I think he got a text message from somebody, didn't he?
Yeah. I got a text message from Lamar Jackson.
What did he say?
He did not. He told Kyle. Oh yeah, Kyle has to issue a public apology. That's what he told me on the podcast for saying that he wasn't a playoff quarterback that can win them games.
He will not get an apology until he makes the Super Bowl. That's all I'm saying.
But you see, that is completely That's pulling a complete 180 from what you accused him of being.
I'll double
He-
down.
I am. He chokes next game.
So much
Zay
money.
Flowers gonna fucking get 20 yards, and everyone's going, "Oh, he's such a great receiver." Yeah, that kid.
Slamming the Ravens money
The
line.
wine is already seeping.
I honestly think it's safe to say that if Lamar Jackson can't beat this Kansas City Chiefs team, I don't think he'll ever win a Super Bowl. Like, because this Kansas City Chiefs team is the least stacked that it's ever been. This is definitely
On
the
offense.
weakest Kansas City
Yeah.
playoff team we've seen in a while.
They're
On
actually,
offense.
they're actually
On
playing
offense,
defense
yes,
this year.
on offense.
Yeah, I think. Well, it's funny because like what the Ravens. Let's see the Ravens do in the AFC Championship game. Kyle's gonna be saying, "Well, he's got to win the Super Bowl." Like he's already saying he's got to win the Super Bowl. And then like if the Ravens do win the Super Bowl next episode, Kyle's gonna be like, "Oh well, we got one Super Bowl. Congratulations!"
No, he's gonna be like, well, he wasn't in the Pro Bowl. He wasn't
Yeah,
in the Pro Bowl.
Well, he didn't make Pro Bowl.
Defense won the game for him, so there you go.
Well, you know, he would be
He
a
scored
generational
31
quarterback
points.
if he won the
He
damn Walter
scored-
Payton Award.
He didn't score 31 points. All right, Mark
Yeah,
Andrews scored 31 points. He rode his back there.
31 points this past week.
Yeah.
Kyle, I think
Mark Andrews is dead. He's not even playing right now.
True.
But his spirit's there.
I think all the ignorance spewing from Kyle's microphone is messing up my headphones.
It's potentially.
Hold on. Okay, real quick. He had 100 yards rushing with 2 touchdowns. And not to mention the, let's see, 152 yard and four touchdowns.
I did
Lamar
not know
Jackson still had 4 touchdowns in the game with 270 yards. So I'm just saying, I mean, Houston has a decent defense. So it's not like Lamar just went out and said, hey, we're going to let the defense win it. I mean, he put up 28 of their 34 points, and the other 6 came from Justin Tucker. So
He better thank his offensive line for that.
okay.
Dude, did you not see Lamar Jackson getting those breakaway runs though?
I saw him get lucky.
Kyle's definitely one of the guys that called Lamar Jackson a running back.
I would say Kyle's turning heel, but really he's just being
No,
weighed in
I-
all season.
No, I can't hate on Lamar. I really don't like Zay Flowers though. I think he's a very overrated receiver. Lamar is a good
What
rusher.
the hell has Zay Flowers ever done to you? You've never talked shit about him once, and now we're just like, yeah, screw him. I've hated him my entire life.
That man has ruined 7 bets for me this year.
Okay, there we go.
I'm
There we
tired
go.
of it.
Thank you. That's what
Stop
we need.
betting
We
on
need
him.
context.
No, because if you stop,
Double
that's
down.
when he hits.
Triple down, quadruple down.
Were you betting the over or the under on him?
I'm betting over, bro. He only needed 51 yards.
And every time he lost, he had double. So,
Yeah.
we are down 700.
Hey Kyle, I
Oh.
think you'll find your lost winnings at the bottom of that wine bottle.
He's gonna
Can you
find
give
him
the-
tonight.
Can you give the camera a tornado for everyone?
Please do.
I can't. My
Do you-
father-in-law watches this.
So the
Believe
comments
me,
you
after
make,
this
no,
first
no, no, no,
after
hold
this
on.
first 5
the comments,
minutes, he is not
the comments
watching
you
anymore.
make is fine, but the drinking is not.
Oh
Thank
God.
you.
Yeah, it won't catch it. The screen wasn't on him, but it's okay. He didn't do his normal cough,
Yeah.
that randomly.
He'll
puts
just
him on the
snort.
But
screen.
usually I
something.
do it with Southern Comfort, and then you're like, oh, he's gonna die, and it's like probably.
So here's the thing, Kyle. When I drink, like in the very beginning of the podcast, I'm normal. I'm going about my thing, and then towards the last 30 minutes is when I have to really have a lot of my stuff edited because I drink during it. You started before, so we're just hopping straight in for you.
I'm just
So-
upset about the Packers. All right, man, you dropped 2 easy interceptions.
If Jordan Love was a better quarterback.
Yeah.
Oh, so all right, chillax.
Well,
No,
all I know is that if anybody has any value in memorabilia for Jordan Love, like it dropped drastically after that game.
And then lastly, all I have to say, well, not all I have to say, let's just go ahead and throw this out here. If I know D'Amico Ryan's a good coach, but if Kirby Smart was coaching, they probably would have won.
Yeah, he knows how to develop talent.
He does.
Yeah.
And he's a good coach.
Okay, well, let's actually deep dive into the games a little bit. I guess we'll start with the Ravens and Texans because that was kind of like the blowout game. Ravens won. They scored 34 points. I'm sorry, against the Texans. That game was shaping out to be a better game, right? I mean, it was realistically like how the Texans and Browns were the week prior.
Yes.
Kind of a close game at halftime. Both offenses were kind of at first struggling against the opposing defenses. Texans defense looked good. I mean, Ravens defenses looked pretty good all year. And then, I mean, the fourth quarter, the Ravens just put the stamp on the game. I mean, they scored 17 points in the fourth quarter alone. So I know Nick read off the stat line, but I mean, Lamar Jackson had 152 yards passing with 2 touchdowns, but he added 100 yards on the ground as well. So 252 all-purpose yards and 2 rushing touchdowns as well. It was really running back by committee, which it's been all year for Baltimore. I mean, they had, besides Lamar with his 100 yards rushing, was it Justice Hill, Gus Edwards, and Dalvin Cook all had another 129 yards rushing between the 3 of them. And then, I mean, they didn't really have a passing attack, but again, like when you have 230 yards rushing, you don't really need a passing attack. You can eat clock. And I mean, it's funny because they established their run 8 clock, but still were able to score 34 points.
Well, their defense, because the Texans, even though they only scored 10, they played a clean game. They didn't get sacked. They didn't turn the ball over. But it was pretty much the way that the defense was playing is it was in a zone for the most part, and they were keeping literally everything in front of them. And so from what I saw during the game when I watched it, there was no yards after the catch. And they took away the long passes that CJ Stroud has been, kind of named for. And so a lot of these check down for 2-3 yards. I mean, he completed 19 passes for 17.5 yards.
175.
What did I say?
17.5.
Oh, sorry. I was jumping ahead. So I mean, a little bit less than 10 yards a pass. And then, I mean, something that we've kind of talked about before is their lack of the run game kind of hurt them, where David Singletary has, been okay filling in because Damian Pierce just fell off the earth this year. But David Singletary has been good. But again, I mean, you can't have just a good running back go up against the best defense.
Yeah. Well, and also too, it's if you look a little bit further, Baltimore had no turnovers. Like their defense didn't have any turnovers. Like they didn't create any, like no interceptions, no fumbles, or fumbles lost, anything like that. So it wasn't the fact that they were like, those fantasy defenses that you want that has like an interception or a pick six or a touchdown. It's just like they were, bend don't break, and they rarely bent this game, to be quite honest with you. I mean, they allowed 10 points in the first half, and that was it. To the Texans were held scoreless.
Yeah, I think it's also worth mentioning too that it was a cold day in Baltimore. Like it was cold, and Texans are a dome team.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's going to be a cold day in hell when Lamar Jackson wins the Super Bowl. So
yeah, Texans only went 4 for 12 on third downs.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, based on that stat alone, I mean, that's 8 drives that were stopped.
Yeah.
And to categorize the game, if one team's going to run away with it, that was a good game to watch, where it wasn't even so much you didn't see stupid mistakes being made, like 2 interceptions being thrown, or especially, with the last interception within the last minute of the game. You didn't see anything like that. One team was just truly better, ran away with it, but it wasn't because the other team was so inept they shouldn't have been on the field.
Exactly.
I agree, Caleb.
Young teams are just so susceptible to making those critical mistakes because they can't handle the pressure. And so like when they, if they're trying to go tie or even win a game, like,
Yeah.
that's where you
Yeah.
see these non-elite quarterbacks really, really fold and throw a pick and to seal the game.
And Caleb, the best part about a blowout is the refs can't call a bullshit penalty on the last 10 seconds of a game to decide it. So that's always good too.
Well, you gotta kind of count on that explanation whenever you're using a plastic folding chair rather than a steel folding chair. So
Well, speaking of which, about I guess unsatisfactory results. Green Bay lost to the 49ers. Kyle, if you want to take it away with this, I know you probably have a lot to say. And like, it was just a heartbreaking loss, man. Like 3 points, box score. I mean, if you think about it, the 49ers had to come back to win too in the fourth quarter. Like the Packers were scoreless.
I giggled
in the fourth quarter. I mean, like it's just underwhelming from Green Bay. Like, what are your thoughts on the game?
New quarterback, same. Can't beat the freaking 49ers, man. No, defense dropped 2 easy interceptions, and like that first interception they dropped, that was going to be a pick 6.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody could have caught that. That was one of the easiest picks I think I've seen all year, and that should not have been dropped. I mean, you get a kicker out of college who was 70% from 30 yards in college to come play for your team. I mean, it's just that's terrible. Terrible all the way around. Love didn't have the best game. Huh?
It was a bad snap.
Yeah, but man, you saw the stat of he has the most missed field goals in the NFL. I mean,
It sounds like a really
his
bad
rookie
holder.
season too, though, right? Isn't it Anders' rookie season?
I think it's his second year.
Second year.
No, it's his
okay.
rookie.
Oh, it is.
Well, I thought it was his rookie.
When you get paid to make field goals, you need to make the field goals.
Yeah. If you get paid to make field goals, you should never miss one, not even one.
I'm not even saying miss one, Caleb, but he was within a 35-yard line, and he missed.
That's a far field goal.
Yeah.
Not for a pro. I wouldn't make it. I'm not a pro though.
There is an argument. There is an argument to
Breaking
be said
news.
for that, but I'm just so. I think someone right as we were getting ready to determine what we were going to talk about today, someone brought up the fact that Matt LaFleur said that he says a prayer every time he sees him go out on the field. So yeah, that does clearly show. I put that less on Carlson though, and more on LaFleur. If you're aware of the problem, why haven't you done anything to fix the problem? This past offseason, there were a lot of kickers floating around this past offseason.
As I said, 18 weeks to get a new kicker.
Yeah. And so, but with Anders Carlson, I hope people aren't pinning this on him as much as they should be pinning it on LaFleur.
They should be pinning it on Jordan Love.
It comes down to Joe Barry. That's all it is. All right.
To be fair, it's kind of hard, to kick a field goal when you look to your left to your coach, and he and another coach are underneath praying. You're like, I don't know what they're talking about.
And then you look in the stands and you see the fans, and man, that's not a fan base I'd want to win for.
Look straight to the upright, all you see is this right here.
Yeah, you got some fans chewing dip like it's gum.
Yeah.
Another guy selling
God, he missed
trading
this.
cards.
It's like
Lambeau Field.
It's like when you eat popcorn in a movie theater, just throw it in your mouth. That's what Green Bay fans are doing with dip. It's just like
that, and you got fans sitting at a kiosk trying to sell Anders Carlson trading cards. It's autographed.
Yeah, dude. It's God. I'm surprised. Like as in depth as y'all are going, I thought y'all were about to start breaking down the anatomy of a field goal. I thought we were going that route. And I was
you got the right upright, you got the left upright.
Yeah,
you hit it in the
between
middle.
them damn things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I know, I'm not trying to throw salt in the wounds here. I promise, Kyle. But I mean, that's fair. That's fair. That's why I'm bringing this up. That way somebody else can do it. Jordan Love he went 21 for 34 for 194 yards. He had 2 touchdowns, but he also had 2 picks as well. So it was kind of a, completely opposite game from the week prior. Running game was good for for Green Bay, honestly. I mean, Aaron Jones with 108 yards. I mean, can't really complain there. I mean, obviously you'd like to see a touchdown, but and I know we talked about it before, but like their receiving core is in good hands for the next couple of years.
Oh, for
you know, while
sure.
everybody's on
For
their
sure.
on their rookie contracts. I think was it Caleb? Was it you that Caleb or Nick? I think no, because you weren't on the episode last week. Caleb, somebody brought it up talking about the receiving core and them all being on their rookie contracts.
Yep.
It was Nick.
And but when you have Dobbs, when you have Jaden Reed, when you have Christian Watson, when you got Luke Musgrave, like all those guys are young receivers. I know
rookies are in their second year.
Yeah, I know Musgrave is a tight end, but still. So I mean, you've got guys. I mean, you got Kraft too, who I think is a pretty young guy as well. Who's
Kraft is a rookie. Musgraves is a second year.
Yeah, so you've got potential there. But the problem will be eventually when they, like Nick said last week, when they do hit their expiration on the rookie contract, and then you start looking at extensions or new deals or whatever, and they're not like they'll probably be able to keep Christian Watson for a decent price because I don't think he's ever going to play a full season healthy. Like I think he played a span of 3 games this year, like consecutively. And then it was like 1 game on, 1 game off the rest of the year.
It was last year too.
Yeah. And I mean, Jaden Reed came out of the woodworks this year. I mean, he actually was a bright spot, and so was Dobbs. So very the Packers fans have something to look forward to as long as they keep Joe Barry at defense coordinator.
Yeah, and if you consider the look that the Packers had towards the beginning of the season, I mean, what better end of the season could you ask for going back to week 2 or 3? I mean,
you can't be mad. You can't be mad. I mean, the first podcast I said I think they're only going to get 6 wins, and they go into the second round of the playoffs and pretty much should have won that game. It's not a bad season.
Yeah, and another thing, wasn't that game like a downpour? Like, wasn't it raining?
Yeah.
At Lambeau, like it was pretty bad conditions to be playing.
San Francisco got one of those random rain showers they get every 10 years.
Oh, monsoon.
It's all a conspiracy.
Especially right in crunch time when Jordan Love has opportunity to reach for greatness, and then you saw the rain just start turned on.
Yeah. Like one of those Gatorade commercials.
2 things
will be on the sideline, everything slowed down in the pouring rain.
2 things will forever be against the Packers faithful: the
49ers.
refs and God.
One and the same.
It's the fucking 49ers and special teams every year, man. I can't keep taking.
Hey, at least it wasn't Robbie Gold this year, though.
That's fair.
Because he was a dick. He was a dick when he beat the Packers. During the pregame, he was kicking in the middle of their warm-ups, and then after, I mean, flicking them off, and So at least you lost in this fashion and not by a field goal in sub-10 degree, and Robbie Gold, the 50-year-old kicker, flicking you off.
Yeah.
It's
Alpha. He is the alpha of the pack. But you look at the 49ers, and I get the thing about the 49ers is that they just had less mistakes. They had less turnovers. Purdy had one of his average games that somehow has gotten him to an MVP conversation. McCaffrey, this is like the first week. Now, all-purpose yards, he had about 128, but McCaffrey only had 98 rushing yards this week. Still had 2 touchdowns, but only 98 rushing yards. Kittle decided to have a breakout game, 81 yards and a touchdown. Like, man, if only he could do that during the regular season. Juwan Jennings had a decent game. I mean, I will say Purdy did spread the ball out a pretty decent bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different receivers with a catch, even though granted 7 of his 23 receptions went to Christian McCaffrey. So, yeah, like I said, it was a cleaner game from San Francisco. That's what ended up winning them the game. Well, talking about the first game yesterday on Sunday, the Lions and the Buccaneers, that was a heartbreaker of a game. God, I mean, when you look at Baker at 23-31, Lions won. When you look at Baker Mayfield's stats, I know he had 2 interceptions and obviously basically the game sealing interception on their 2-minute drive. I mean, first pass of their 2-minute drive. But I mean, he still went 26 of 41 with 349 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. There is something to be said about their offensive line. As I said, they allowed 4 sacks. Now, granted, the Lions don't have slouches on their defensive line, so it's kind of, to be seen.
3. I'll interject and say this. I think a lot of it was to the credit of the defensive coordinator, Dan Campbell, because 3 of those sacks were by corners. They were disguised blitzes. It was at perfect times. Because the protection was not terrible during their normal package-based defense. There weren't many sacks on that, but when they dialed up the blitzes, but what I think CJ,
Johnson?
He got one. But yeah, again,
Brian Branch.
Brian Branch got one. So I mean, like those people, the schemes was just called at the right time. Like it was just, I will say, I'm not going to put the Buccaneers down for that. I would just more so give credit to the Lions for their blitz packages.
For sure.
What I didn't get from the Bucs is the first half, they didn't really let Baker just go out there and be Baker. They focused a little more on the running, and when they let him come out in the second half, that's when the points started coming. So I didn't really understand that game plan starting the game with it.
Well, to be fair though, I would say the last third or even half of the season, Rachaad White has been actually a really good running back, like getting 100-yard games just off of rushing. And like I was expecting him to be like a swing back this year. And I mean, I think out of the last 5 or 6 games of the season, I think 4 of those were 100+ yard rushing games.
And see, that's what I don't understand, because it was tied all the way going into the 4th, but Rachaad White only had 9 carries.
Mm-hmm.
That to me just doesn't make sense. I think they should have doubled that, because he was averaging 6.1 yards a carry.
Yeah.
I mean, and you could see it if you watched the game. Like he was gashing their defense, but they just didn't do it much.
Yeah. Well, and on the other side, I mean, realistically, it's a story of how I was saying about the 49ers and the Packers. The Packers had no fumbles lost. They had no the Lions had no fumbles lost, no interceptions. Jared Goff played a clean game, a safe game. They got a lot more rushing yards on the ground. So it was a more balanced offense. And then also too, I mean, when you have 30 attempts passing and you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who solidified himself as a top 5 or 3 receiver in the league this year, when he has 8 receptions, Sam Laporta, who got hurt 2 weeks ago and is wearing a knee brace where he can barely bend his knee, when he has 9 receptions for 65 yards, you can't complain. Like that's insane. Then you got Jahmyr Gibbs going for 114 all-purpose yards. So I don't know. Like it was, the Lions played a clean game, man. I mean, they also another thing, and it's not that big. They had the ball a little bit longer than the Buccaneers. And a big thing was penalties. Buccaneers had 5 penalties, and that Bucks actually outproduced them in total yards. I mean, it was by 18 yards, but still. So I don't know. I mean, it was a good game to watch. I mean, I watched the last 3 minutes of it. Like I said, sitting in a Pulley parking lot of some dog park bar, and because that was where I saw it. So yeah, it was like I said, it was a good game. And then finally, the game I was not able to watch, I'll let you guys take away on this: the Chiefs and the Bills. Whoever watched that game, like I said, I wasn't able to catch it.
I watched all of it. It was the opposite of what I predicted as far as like how it would play out, but it turned out, like I said, I said Patrick Mahomes does not play any different away, than he does at home for the regular season, and as seen in the playoffs, because it didn't seem like the crowd affected him at all. He was making the normal plays, but they did only I can't remember a time where Patrick Mahomes only threw the ball 23 times. So that's just saying something in their game plan. But the fact that he still had over 200 yards, he was efficient. Meanwhile, I said Josh Allen or somebody from the Bills would throw an interception or something. They played a clean game. Their problem, the Bills pretty much dominated on first down. Every play was 7 to 9 yards on 1st down. But the drive killers for them was every single time they got a negative play, the drive was done. Like if it was first down and Dalvin Cook or James Cook got stuffed for a 1 yard loss, that drive was it. It's done. And so the passing, which is very strange, to say, was their downfall because they could not complete passes down the field. They could get their check downs. Especially with Stephon Diggs miss, because that was a perfectly thrown 70-yard bomb, and he just whiffed on it. And so I don't know if that's more of a testament to the Chiefs' defense, like we were talking about, but still, they let up 180 yards rushing, but it was that bend don't break, because again, every single time there was a negative play, it was it.
Well, and go based off of what you just said, looking at the stats, he completed 26 passes for 186 yards. That is, so out of all the quarterback play that we have just talked about in the divisional round, that is the lowest at yards per catch or average at 7.2. So, like you said, the like Stephon Diggs missing that catch, that was a big thing. And I think there was a couple down the field passes that they just couldn't complete. Either were drops or.
Well, no, there's one to Shakur in the end zone that just kind of ducked and died in the middle of the end zone, and he was pretty open.
Yeah.
But Josh Allen was a little bit late getting it to him, so it just kind of died.
Leading receiver was Dalton Kincaid with 5 receptions for 45 yards.
Yeah.
So, and then Shakir was right behind him at 44, but he had 7 receptions at a 6.3 average. And usually you want your receivers sitting at what, like an 8-yard, 9-yard average?
Especially at the slot receiver, yeah.
Yeah. Stephon Diggs had 3 receptions for 21 yards. Like I said, that picture you got right there pulled up, Nick. I think he's been standing in that same position for the past 4 years.
Yeah, I saw a thing on Twitter today that it was this picture, but there were 4 of Stephon Diggs all around watching the same parade.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, and because again, the Bills had a very rocky start to their season. They started out really kind of bad. And everybody's like, man, but then Sean McDermott made the 9/11 joke, and they went on like a 9-game win streak. I'm just saying it happened. That's the facts. So I don't know what kind of, fuel he gave them, but the thing is, though, they should be happy, but they're almost like Georgia before they beat Alabama. Like every year they're right there, and then bam, they get beat by Alabama. And so maybe soon they'll be able to overcome the Chiefs, but as long as the Chiefs keep up what they're doing, the Bills are gonna have to beat them to get to the Super Bowl.
That was
go
going
ahead.
to be. I was just going to say. So earlier in the year, like Nick was talking about, their rocky start at the beginning of the season, and we've had plenty of discussion regarding the Bills being on a decline. And I was wondering, so last year, the way their team looked last season, I was thinking to myself, man, they got such a stacked roster. If they don't win the Super Bowl this year, I don't know if they ever will. And it seems like, seeing how resilient they were in the postseason this year, does anyone think that we may have that they have firmly missed their Super Bowl window?
As if saying that they are on a steady decline?
Like as far as like,
in a sense.
do we see them go into a Super Bowl within the next 5 years?
No.
Because I believe one of my takes for the Bills this year was that they've already passed their peak. Their
Yeah.
peak was last year, 2 years ago. Like I like, and technically that has held true because they didn't make it to the AFC Championship
Yeah.
this year. Granted, it's because they lost to the Chiefs for third year in a row, but I don't know, man. It is lackluster playoff play that is what's hurting them realistically.
Cowboys?
Yeah, I mean realistically. So I also want to go back to one thing Nick was talking about, the Sean McDermott like Taliban comment that got turned into a meme. That's not even my favorite meme from the Bills this year. My favorite meme from the Bills is how like people make Josh Allen out to be like a complete moron. Like how they said that there's nothing in that brain, he can just throw a football 70 yards. Like I saw a picture of it was Kirk Herbstreit walking his dog, that golden retriever, and it was like a quote, and the dog was like, why no rain? Grass plastic, I'm Ben. And then somebody quote tweeted and said, that's the same thing that Josh Allen says before a game. So.
I think the Bills will be okay. I think they'll always be in contention. I think they need to kind of sit back for a second and realize like you need to focus on the run game and become more balanced. You don't need Josh Allen throwing the ball 40 times. Let him, not necessarily be a game manager because he's got all the arm talent in the world. And obviously he's a physical guy that can run the ball, but you need to get rid of Stephon Diggs. He's almost like a AJ Brown. He's a diva. And it's always seen that, he's arguing with Josh Allen or whoever, and go for a more younger receiver core. And, maybe instead of throwing the ball 40 times, drop it down to 30 or 25 and become more balanced. And I think that'll help them. But again, I think it's more of a thing with the Cowboys. It's like it's hard to really say like, oh, your weakness is what stopped you, because during the regular season you look like the Super Bowl contending team, and then you just choke in the playoffs. And it's more of an organizational thing at that point. It becomes a mental thing. Like, Tyler Bass had never missed in the playoffs. He had been 9 for 9, and then just randomly just misses this one. And so that's the thing. It's just there's a lot of factors that go into it. But yeah, I agree. They're on the decline if they don't change some things.
Yeah.
And kind of rounding it out, since that was our last playoff game for the week to discuss, but rounding it out, I think it's safe to say that the Detroit Lions are the most mentally dialed in of all the teams. Like watching Dan Campbell's like locker room speech after the game was done, that team is Super Bowl or bust. Like that, they are completely dialed in, and I can't I've not seen anything that makes me suggest that any other team compared to the Detroit Lions are as focused and as driven as the Lions are right now.
Yeah. Well, and that'll get into our next little segment here, talking about the predictions for the game. I don't think there's anybody in the world in the country besides people in Baltimore, people in San Francisco, and people in Kansas City that don't want the Lions to win. I think the Lions have become universally the favorite team, like in the playoffs still. So that being said, they are going to play. I mean, this is a good matchup because they're going to play probably the best team in the NFC, in the 49ers. And I would love to see the Lions win. I think it's going to be a tough game. I think it's going to be a different style of play than what they just saw, because one thing about the Buccaneers is that they were kind of a like a big play team, and they were streaky. they would go have 3 and outs here, have 3 and outs here. But when they had a drive, like they would go out and have a 5-minute drive, and then the next drive would be another 5 to 6 minute drive and score. So I don't know. It's a tough game to pick, and like it really goes in what you said, Caleb, talking about how like they're dialed in. Like the other thing is too is like, how much do these we talked about emotional wins in college football. How much does that affect games in the NFL? Because both of these teams, I mean, realistically, if you think about it, kind of had some pretty close adrenaline rush games that they won. The Lions maybe not as much because they did catch the game-sealing interception with about 2 minutes left and knew they won. But is that going to affect the game any? Or are we going to see like the same grinding, gritty 49ers play that we've seen that's just going to like tries to pummel the team? Are we going to see some mistakes this week?
I think we're going to see some mistakes from the 49ers. This is the furthest Dan Campbell's ever gotten into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
This is the furthest that the Lions have ever gotten into the playoffs for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
You have, I think, where they have the advantage. So 49ers is a team that consists of, they have some staple 49ers players that have been with the franchise for quite some time. But when you talk about like Christian McCaffrey, like one of their biggest players, he's a transplant from Carolina. So these guys that are in Detroit, let's be honest, when they were brought over to Detroit, they probably didn't have the best insight of what they felt their career was going to be at that point. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson played for the Saints. He was one of the best defensive backs at the Saints. Saints traded him to Philadelphia. He was at Philadelphia, and I'm trying to, but in Philadelphia, as we all know, has been a Super Bowl contender, at one point or another several times in the past 5 years. So getting traded from Philadelphia to Detroit, I'm just seeing a whole lot of players that fate has brought them to Detroit, and they have literally said, you know what? We're going to make the best of this. Detroit, we're going to give Detroit a whole new identity. This isn't where player careers go to die anymore.
And I think that's a lot to the credit of Dan Campbell.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. And Kyle Shanahan, I think it's going to work to the detriment that the Niners have been so dominant throughout the season this year. And I think that Detroit's really going to lay the wood to them. And we're going to see I don't think we'll see Christian McCaffrey stumble, because Christian McCaffrey's just amazing. I think if we're going to see anyone stumble, we're going to see Brock Purdy stumble. We're going to see the defense fold, to Amon-Ra St. Brown. I see this game playing into the strengths of Detroit on a mental level.
Yeah.
When we've been talking about it all season, I told everybody that the most dangerous team in the playoffs would be an 11-6 or 12-5 Lions. Not if they were 16-1 or 15-2, I said they wouldn't make it very far. But if they were 11-6 or 12-5,
Would have lost
have
in
a
week
shot.
17.
Yep. And so again, that's like you said, I think they'll both be dialed in though. I don't think it's going to be a thing where Brock Purdy throws 4 interceptions and the Lions win by 17. It's going to be one of the last 2 drives of the game kind of thing. Somebody has to go win it. It's not going to be a thing where somebody just doesn't lose it. But again, that just comes down to, okay, what kind of Brock Purdy are we going to see this game? Because we've seen check down Brock Purdy that plays safe that almost gets beat by the Bucks. Or not the Bucks, excuse me, the Packers. But we've also seen Brock Purdy during the regular season that goes out and throws for 300-something yards because he's making down the field passes. He's a little bit more of the gunslinger type. So this game will have to be a gunslinger Brock Purdy, not a game manager. And I think having Debo come back, because Debo was concussed for most of this game, and it's kind of worrisome that one receiver out of that great receiving core goes down and Brock Purdy falls apart a little bit.
Yeah,
That's concerning. The fact
it
that
is.
I get Debo is probably the best receiver, if not Ayuk, but again, I mean, the fact that you lost one receiver and you fall apart, that again, that's worrisome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mike Tyson said everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. And Brock Purdy, to Nick's point, Brock Purdy has been great when he's gunslinger Brock, and the game plan's going according to plan. I don't think I think we're going to see Detroit throw a wrench in that.
Well,
And
and that's I was going to build off the next point, talking about like coming down to the last two possessions, like because I can absolutely see 49ers having a game-winning drive, like minute and 45 seconds left. They have to go win the game, and then Dan Campbell just starts pulling out all the stops. Like you don't talking about the cornerback blitzes against Tampa Bay. It's just start throwing his like, okay, these are our best defensive plays. They get them on a third down and they just like send the house, or they send some really well disguised blitz. What is Brock Purdy going to do when he's put in that situation, when in that high stress adrenaline rush situation?
And something I just thought about too is Jared Goff has been here before.
Oh
yes,
The starting quarterback last year for the 49ers during this game after like the first play was Christian McCaffrey.
Mm-hmm.
So because Brock Purdy went down with a UCL injury, and so Brock Purdy's never played in this big of a game besides again the breaking his arm pretty much. So again, I think the key thing is Brock Purdy. Just is his confidence there? Is he hesitating on throws and goes to the check down? Because if that happens, Detroit's are a lock.
yeah,
But again, I don't care. Christian McCaffrey will break his runs. He will break his catches. Like
yes,
he will get what he gets. That's a given.
He's a constant.
I don't think Dan Campbell is going to coach to say, "Hey, we're locking up Christian McCaffrey." It's like we'll give him that. They're just not getting anything else.
yeah,
And so again, that's the big primary factor in this game.
yeah. If they want to try to beat us with Christian McCaffrey alone, they can try,
Yeah,
but they're not going to beat us with Brock Purdy.
exactly. And that's brilliant.
Yes, it is.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I think a lot of teams have done the exact opposite. They see Christian McCaffrey, like, oh, we got to lock him up. And then that's where, oh, George Kittle, Ayuk, Debo, all these other players beat them because Christian McCaffrey is so focused in on. But I think if you do the opposite, that's where the 49ers have struggled this year.
Yeah.
BB Kyle, anything to add?
One fun thing about the Detroit team is Dan Campbell was on that team that went 0-16. So he has a lot more motivation
Yeah,
than I think anybody in the league.
that's fair.
He has a lot of history with Detroit, and that is going to play a huge part into this.
Yeah, he's bringing hope to a hopeless place of Detroit, Michigan.
And let me tell you,
thing
if
I'm
you
worried
haven't
about-
watched the Bye Bye Barry documentary on Amazon, like if you want a little insight as to just how much of a drought it really has been for Detroit since Barry Sanders left, my God, like very seldomly in our lifetime have we seen the energies of a city like channeled through a football team like this.
Yeah, the only thing I worry about them playing in San Francisco, not having the home field advantage.
Oh, might be,
But I
well,
feel-
yeah, because
but
Detroit's
I
in a
do- but-
dome.
I do feel like they're mentally built for that.
It's set up to right now. It's gonna be 70 degrees, so it's not gonna be cold. It's gonna be good football playing weather. And I don't know because all of the California teams have kind of struggled to get fans in.
Yeah.
And San
Mhm.
Francisco, I mean, you got to like seriously look at the city. Like, I mean, the Chargers and the Rams. My God, like, all of us could go and spend more on the hotel and plane tickets than the actual ticket itself because they're so
Yeah.
desperate to get fans in. The 49ers have kind of seen that this year when they first played the first game of the season and was playing Pittsburgh, and this was their home opener. I mean, it was about 50-50 with Pittsburgh fans. So
Yeah, Pittsburgh has a big.
yeah, no, I know. I'm just saying, like, I do think it'll be a factor, but I don't think. I mean, Jared Goff has been here before. Jared Goff, I think, is very underrated. He gets a lot of hate because of the Rams, but he's a veteran quarterback. And so, but I'm interested for the Chiefs and Ravens.
I am as well, and that's what I was about to bring up. I don't know, like me personally, and I know like I'm not jumping on the Ravens bandwagon here. Like I mean, you can go if you want to hear my opinions on the Ravens, you can go back and listen to the past 7 episodes of the podcast. But I think the Ravens get a dominant win, honestly. Like when I say dominant, I'm not saying like they're going to beat them like they beat the Texans, but they're going to get a comfortable win. I don't with how poor and inconsistent Kansas City has played on the offensive side. I don't feel like their defense is going to be able to compensate for that because again, like I said, I think the Ravens have one of the top 2 defenses in the league, them the 49ers. So the inconsistent offensive play against that defense, I don't think is going to fare well. Now, Nick referenced it earlier. The Chiefs has a great offense or a great defense as well, but I think the Ravens, with players like Lamar Jackson, with players like Zay Flowers, and players like their whole running back room between Justice Hill, Gus Edwards, and Dalvin Cook now. I think they will be able to get the ball down the field a little bit better and get out of those 3-and-out positions, and even if it's just field goals. I mean, because one thing you have to factor in, I know it's a crazy thing to factor in, but they have arguably the greatest kicker of all time, Justin Tucker. If you get across the 50-yard line, he's good, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It may just be me, and I may be thinking this completely wrong, but I think the Ravens get a comfortable 10 to 13 point win.
I tend to think that it'll be a little closer than that. I'm picking the Ravens as well. The only thing that makes me consider it being closer is Andy Reid. I mean, of all the coaches in the league today, no one's been where he's at more than Andy Reid at this point. And I think his ability to game plan offensively is going to make it to where this is going to be a competitive game the entire time. Chiefs are going to look like the Chiefs they should have been all season. But I do think that the Ravens have created a special team. Bringing in Dalvin Cook, the more time Dalvin Cook gets as a part of that offense, the more impact he's going to make. And I think the Ravens put together a good enough team to beat Kansas City. I do think that this one's going to come down to the wire, though.
And I feel like Patty Mahomes always finds ways to win games, close games like this. Like I'll be leaning the Ravens, but I just got to feel in my gut that Patty Mahomes is going to just find some way somehow to win, like he usually does.
Yeah, I mean, he's got Mecole Hardman on the team.
I think. Well, I mean, honestly, I think I saw a stat during the game yesterday that I think his only 2 losses came to Tom Brady in the playoffs. That could be completely wrong, but I feel like I remember.
No, they were.
So,
Yeah, no, he's lost one other. I think
the Chiefs beat him once.
The Chiefs beat the Chiefs.
Yeah, the Chiefs beat him once.
The Chiefs beat Patrick Mahomes.
Beat the Chiefs.
We're talking about
Patrick
Mahomes. Cincinnati.
Okay.
Yes, since Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
So he's basically 16-3, and 2 of those losses were Tom Brady.
Yeah.
And so I think the 2 factors that are leaning in Chiefs' favor is one, and God, I don't want to say it because Kyle's going to sit there and become fully erect, but Lamar has not been here. Lamar has been known before to have a bad game in the playoffs. I can see Kyle's camera moving, and his hands are nowhere to be seen. But that's a factor. The other factor is, again, you were giving BB, you were giving Patrick Mahomes a lot of credit, and Caleb, you were giving Andy Reid credit. And I think it's that combination of Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes that it doesn't matter who they have, and I don't care if it's the last game of the season and the God, what team were we talking? The Chiefs. If they are 0-16 and they're going into the last game, if Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are together, they have a chance to win it.
There's no better QB coach combination with better
Yes.
chemistry.
And so I think Andy Reid is almost thrown out of the line or the spotlight just because everybody likes to glaze Patrick Mahomes, but Andy Reid is brilliant. I think Andy Reid, in my opinion, is better than Belichick. I think Belichick got gloated a little bit by Tom Brady. And so I think Andy Reid, game planning wise, schematically, offense, is a better coach. And I know that may be a hot take, but I just based on his past success and how he coaches the game is different how other coaches coach. And so I think that's the big difference. The only thing leaning favor in the Ravens is that they're playing in Baltimore, and Baltimore is a very crime-ridden city, and so it's very possible that the bus gets mugged, or they shoot Patrick Mahomes or Andy Reid, so that's a possibility. But I think it's going to be very close, and I will tell you though, if it is a tie game, if it is anything less than 3-point lead by the Ravens with 5 minutes to go, Chiefs win it.
I agreed.
But if they can get us 10 to a 7, even a 7-point lead with 5 minutes to go, I give the Ravens the win.
There's one thing that I think we should look out for is on the injury report is their linebacker. I think his name's I don't know his first name. Last name's Gay.
Willie Gay.
Willie Gay.
Yeah.
He's he's their spy linebacker, and he got hurt last week. So if he's out,
oh buddy, you're not. So I finally get to talk about my team. The backup is Drew Tranquil from the Chargers, and he is a dog.
So you probably should not read too much into that then.
They're switchable.
Okay. Well.
No, I know. I just wanted to talk about my Chargers for a second. But
your Chargers.
Also, I don't know if y'all saw
he is now.
The Lions signed Zach Ertz.
Yeah. How's that?
What? Yeah. He literally waited until the AFC Championship. He was like, "Okay, I'll sign with you."
Is there not like a rule that says you can't?
I think it's because he didn't have a contract with the team. He's a free agent.
Since the Cardinals let him go.
Well, I know, like in baseball, I know it's completely different sport, but you have to be like on the 25-man roster for a certain amount of percentage of games to be eligible for the playoff roster.
If you were a free agent, just like Dalvin Cook signed with the Ravens.
Fair point.
If you're a free agent, you have full reign.
And BB, I think now this is just my own assumptions, but I think the reason why it works that way in baseball and not football in this case is because since it's a contact sport and since the risk of injury is far higher, I can see how the NFL wouldn't want to remove teams' abilities to do that, because when you get into playoff season, all the money that's on the line with advertising and as many people watching these games, it's to such a high detriment to all these games for them not to be able to get people like Dalvin Cook or Zach Ertz, to fill in spots. Now, I understand they're not necessarily replacing people that were injured, but that's just sort of my own logic for why I would think it wouldn't make sense to make that baseball rules and apply it to the NFL.
Well, the only argument I would have against that is you have a practice squad, and that's what essentially.
That's true. That's true.
Well, one thing you do have to factor into the situation too is maybe a great player that they signed, but they also are not. They haven't been a part of the scheme for the whole entire year as well. That's true. It's not like baseball is plug and play for the most part. So. Yeah, right. So, well, I guess getting out of NFL, obviously we don't really have a lot of college football to talk about. That's going to be more sporadic. Obviously, we'll talk about more as like National Signing Day happens and the transfer portal. Well, transfer portal's technically kind of closed for now, except for a few teams. But
South Alabama.
Like South
thank you,
Alabama,
Kyle. Yes, I was about to say South's lost a couple, but
too. The only one that dude, he who shall not be named. Leaving.
well,
They
right
got Major
quick-
White's face on a billboard now, right by the I-65.
Also got it on the Bayway.
We got to come out with a nickname for Major. Like a
I think
badass-
Major is pretty.
Yeah,
Nah, but I mean, like you have
Minor.
like
Minor Applewhite. We'll call him Minor whenever it's the team sucks. We'll call him Minor.
I don't think
I think
I shouldn't think.
don't
Dangerous
think,
things
just
to
do.
Be like Josh Allen.
I'm still waiting on those crazy Cadillacs t-shirts we printed in my bill.
Make us some. Oh, speaking of college football, JEB Board is going to the Senior Bowl with media passes.
Oh yeah, breaking news. Yeah, we're getting media passes for the. Yeah, we're big time now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hang
Can
on.
y'all do me a favor and ask Brett Favre if it was harder to send a dick pic or steal the money for the volleyball stadium?
Or still
I'll
money
ask
from
him if
Mississippi.
it was harder playing against the Greg Williams Saints defense.
Yeah. Well, actually, so I just got my media pass in. So I've got it right here. Hold on.
Take another sip, Kyle.
Yeah.
You know my favorite.
Yeah.
It's in there somewhere, buddy.
So mine just came in. So
Media pass.
so
Yeah,
yeah, we're-
board.
yeah. So
I am
this-
dyslexic as God.
Vic didn't know if that was horrible spelling
no,
or if it was his
dude,
dyslexia.
No, I thought that was some
Wait, that was
Star
horrible?
Wars, like Jar Jar Binks, like Misa pass. That's what I thought it was. I was like, what? What is he?
He's going to ask
smoking?
you a question.
Let me say at the press conference, are you in for big doo doo?
Oh,
Who said you want to get drafted by?
uh,
Why are you so old?
one thing I forgot to bring up about the 49ers is that Daryl Luther
All right, back to football.
Luther Jr. plays for the 49ers. That's the South guy.
Okay, thanks, BB. So moving on into our next segment. We're going to talk about it right quick. We had a UFC pay-per-view this past weekend. I know I remember some of it, but the big fight on the card was Dricus du Plessis, the South African, versus Sean Strickland, the People's Champion. And what?
The what?
What?
What you say about
What?
Duplessis?
Champion?
The what?
The
Duplessis.
people's champion, you motherfucker.
I said
His
something
last
else.
name
Take
is
another sip, Kyle.
God, well, BB needs to start drinking that way he can understand. His last name is Duplessis. Duplessis.
Okay.
I was like,
Jesus
he's the only one that caught that.
BB
No.
is not familiar with the ways of the boa.
Yeah, he is. But no, Dricus du Plessis fought Sean Strickland, the People's Champion, our champion. Well, he's no longer our champion. He lost, but
It's my president.
not happy with the decision. Went to a judge's decision, and I mean everybody on Twitter, Joe Rogan, Dana White himself said that Sean Strickland won rounds at least 1, 2, and 5, and Sean Strickland got bloodied, but it was from an illegal headbutt. Well, not an illegal headbutt, but it was from a headbutt, which shouldn't cause any damage or shouldn't be counted towards like the points. So Dricus came up after he tried to take him down and hit him in the eyelid and just gashed him open and blood was rushing into his eye.
Dude, even with that, like, sure, Sean had a little bit of damage from the cut and was bloody, but Duplessis, his damage, I mean,
He was getting pieced up.
dude looked
Bro,
like you fucking threw a grape in a microwave. Like that shit was Yeah, it was bad.
I mean,
His face
he was.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, well,
I
and the thing was, it was like it wasn't even like it wasn't that Sean was hitting him with power punches. It was like Duplessis would try to throw an overhand right, and then Sean would just hit him with a jab. And I'm talking
Yeah.
about it was just a quick, snappy jab in and out. And he was popping him. And hell, by the end of round 2, Dricus's what was it, his right eye, I think, was near about swollen shut. So
Yeah, by the fourth,
yeah.
his left was shut.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't get to watch any of the fight, but I did watch Joe Rogan's Fight Companion where they were kind of detailing the final scoring and everything, and I did see the clip of Duplessis looking like a member berry, like standing
Yeah.
there, like without having watched the fight, I can see what everyone's gripes are. Like
Yeah, but he got beat
without
like a
ever
bad
having,
habit.
yeah, without ever even watching the fight. So I'll have to look it up.
What's so frustrating is statistically, Sean beat the out of him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he led
Off,
in significant strikes every round.
yeah.
Except for the
Oh,
fourth.
yeah.
He led in 51
yeah.
significant strikes in the first round.
Mhm.
Yes. And that's the thing that you're basically saying that takedowns, because Duplessis had 2 minutes more of control time
And 4
and 4
takedowns.
takedowns. You're basically saying that is more, because again, there were no submission attempts. Like I said, out of 5 rounds, only 2 minutes. Now, if it was like 20 minutes of control time, okay. If it was, like when we talked about that previous fight with Derek Lewis,
Mhm.
if it was like 20 minutes of the 25 minutes allotted of control time, then sure, give Duplessis his credit. It was 2 minutes worth of control time out of 4 takedowns, 30 seconds apiece. And he got up, and there was no wrestle, there was no submission attempts, there were no significant ground punches either. And so that's the thing. It's like, how are you scoring that more than the amount of significant strikes? Because, I think it was Dana White that even said it, that this was like some of the purest boxing we've seen in the MMA from Strickland. Because
Mhm.
again, like when they were just standing up and going at it, Duplessis was just kind of throwing haymakers and overhead rights and overhead lefts. He did land some head kicks, but I mean, Strickland pieced him up.
Well, you could tell that Dricus he wanted to set up his striking game first and use that for the takedowns. Like that at its essence, that's what he wanted to do, because he wasn't throwing like really tactical strikes. Where he ran into a brick wall with that is that Sean Strickland's defensive boxing is so good that every time he tried to throw that overhand right or tried to throw those power punches, he would just get hit with it. Like it was a snap jab, and he would just hit him, and it was pinpoint every single time. So I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I feel like if he didn't get cut open from the headbutt, I feel like Sean Strickland wins. I feel like the cosmetic effect went into the decision, even though he got pieced up, or he pieced up Dricus. It went into it because of the amount of blood that was pouring from his eyelid that went into his eye.
Yeah.
And
I'll say this. I think if they have a rematch, Strickland knocks him out within the first 2
they're
rounds.
not, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, he's moving
What?
on to
Why?
fight
They won't do it.
Adesanya for
Dana
Conor
already said
McGregor.
so. But
Yeah.
so a couple things real quick, and I'll shut up about it. One, I've said it before, and this is just a testament to it. Don't let it get to the decision. I think Sean Strickland could have been more aggressive.
For sure.
I think, even if it opened him up a little bit, he should have pushed a little bit more when he would land a jab, or even, because there were some strikes that wobbled Duplessis.
Oh yeah.
And he should have been more aggressive, like he was with the Adesanya fight.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. Two, I did see where one of our favorite fighters put something on his Instagram story and said, maybe just one more, #185, and that was from Alex Pereira. Yeah, coming for Duplessis, because again, Alex Pereira is now teammates with Sean Strickland out, and So now Alex Pereira is talking about wanting a fight with Duplessis. And my God,
That would be bad.
yeah, all those jabs, as proficient as they were, they're not going to be jabs. They're going to be like hell's detriment to the temple.
The right hand
So,
of God.
Yeah, no. So I just found that interesting. I don't know if that would be the case because I know there are a couple people in line, but at the same time, if I'm Dana White, and I see the money to be made because the amount of people that are already pushing Duplessis as a villain, and
yeah.
just like the WWE, you've got your villains and heroes, whatnot. Yeah, you've got Duplessis labeled as the villain because he
Cool.
basically got a gimme win based off the scoring, and then you put Alex Pereira, probably the heaviest hitter in the MMA, regardless of weight class. That's going to be a high profiting fight right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, I didn't get a chance to watch the fight myself, but I did watch a lot of like the press conferences leading up to the fight. Talking about Strickland, needing to not let it come to decision and pushing his punches a lot more, pushing into it, being far more aggressive. Do you think that there's a chance that maybe he wasn't trying to play into Duplessis' strategy? Because I know in the pre-fight press conferences and everything, like Duplessis was going in on him for, not letting a lot of those fights go to decision. Like he was trying to goad him into being more aggressive. So I'm wondering if maybe, and like I said, didn't get to watch it, but I'm wondering how much of that do you think might have played a part in it? Having watched the fight, do you think Strickland was trying to sort of, mitigate whatever strategy Duplessis had?
I
No.
don't think Sean Strickland is that kind of fighter that's going to be baited like that.
Yeah.
I think Sean Strickland is a guy that's going to go in there and fight his style, whether that's an advantage or disadvantage.
I got you.
Because technically, pre-fights with Adesanya and Sean Strickland, his boxing and lack of wrestling and lack of, the kicks was considered a disadvantage against Adesanya, but he fought the same way. The only difference in this fight was that he was a little bit less aggressive, but statistically he won. Should have won. So, I mean, he didn't really change much up.
Yeah.
But
Well, and
like I said,
if you look at how Sean Strickland fights, if you watched his previous fights, he is not an aggressive guy. Like he's going to have a defensive boxing posture. Where he does advance is when he does catch you with those jabs or like a little hook or something like that and gets you on your heels. That's when he's going to press because he's going to apply pressure to you to make you throw those wild punches. It's like what he did with Adesanya. Like Adesanya was kind of lazy with his striking, and then Strickland caught him with a jab, and it wobbled Izzy. And when it wobbled him, that's when he jumped on top of him because he smelled blood in the water, and that's when he started throwing. Yeah,
that's what he didn't do in this fight, though, in my opinion.
Right. Which with how defensive minded I think he is, he's got to be 100% sure that they are hurt. Like we can sit in the crowd and say like, oh, he's hurt, he's running back, but there was a difference between how he wobbled Izzy and how he wobbled Drekus. Still kept his balance. When he hit Izzy with that punch, Izzy like fell back into the cage. So they're like, with Strickland, I think he's got to be a little bit more like, he's got to be 100% sure, like, okay, this guy's hurt. I need to go in for the kill. So, all right. Well, I guess we'll go into our final segment. We have a new segment this week. It's called our BB's Controversy. And his controversy of the week this week is it pertains to bowl games. So, BB, if you want to go ahead and explain your controversy.
All right. So I think bowl games should be played at week 0 instead of the end of the year.
Would you explain why?
I'll get to that. I've been sitting on my butt bone too long. I'm trying to sit up, to readjust myself.
Insert
I
the
just feel
fat joke
like-
by Kyle.
I just feel like really the only bowl games that matter are the playoffs at the end of the year, right? Because if it mattered, you wouldn't
Yeah.
have players opting out. All right,
Yeah.
if you move,
Hey, well, to go off that point, who won the Fiesta Bowl this year?
I think Oregon.
Who was in the Fiesta Bowl? Yeah,
think it was-
exactly. Right. No, but that goes my point.
Right.
So
But I mean, realistically, I think so you have the most important games of the playoffs. You play those within the year, all right, and you still make your, when that final ranking comes out, and you have your 12 teams, and they did go, oh, and here's who's playing in the, the Fiesta Bowl, the Orange Bowl. You move those games to week 0, and have it kick off college football season in like a March Madness style from like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Because I don't think there's any NFL games week 0, right? Usually
not. Usually college starts before NFL.
It's still
that's
preseason.
what I was thinking when I was coming up with this crazy scenario. But I mean, like that way, I mean, sure, it won't be the most accurate representation of a, 11, 12 and 0 Liberty team versus, Oregon. But you won't have opt-outs. You'll have people ready to hit somebody that's not their teammate, and I think it'll be a better representation of bowl games.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with that. You'd have more viewership from that. I mean, just like you're saying with all the opt-outs and everything, especially for the draft-minded players, it kind of cuts down on the need to watch if some of their best players aren't even going to be playing in the game. So I don't, and that's what we can talk about, how honorific these bowl games are and everything, but in reality, they're there for one purpose and one purpose alone, and that is to make money. So I think that's a perfect solution that gets the fans better football to watch, rakes in more advertiser dollars, and brings more revenue to these bowl games, and it would only get better season to season. So
How do
I
you
don't see an
pick the
issue with it.
teams?
Well, I mean, like you normally do, just like it normally happens, but they just won't play those games until week 0,
Yeah, but with no. Oh, you're saying wait the whole year?
wait the whole
But-
year.
yeah,
But then
next
you
year,
would still
week 0.
You would still lose the roster, BB.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It might not be the most accurate representation, but you won't have player opt-outs, and you have
Yeah.
people wanting to play, and it'll be get up for the game. So I guarantee you
That's-
right now, Georgia, North Florida State really gave a 2 fiddlers about the Orange Bowl, but after it being the first game of the season, I guarantee you they'll play a lot harder.
That's very true. Like I mean, we talked prior about this. I don't disagree with this. I know the rosters wouldn't be the same, but it would almost be like how they do the Big Ten SEC Challenge
Well,
to an extent.
and also, like you say, the players will be changed. Like the rosters won't be changed, but you'll have like
A starting
you
roster.
have
It's-
your number 3, number 2 quarterback. They'll have like the whole offseason take number 1 reps instead of 4 weeks or 3 weeks or whenever your quarterback decides he's not going to play in the bowl game.
Plus, it would give a good gauge of where those teams are and how they did on the recruiting trail
Right.
and in the transfer portal as
And
well.
plus, like these games count to their overall record, and so it will still count to week 0.
And from a watchability standpoint, the coolest thing about bowl games is breaking down the conference barriers, watching different conference teams play against, watching the SEC play against the Big Ten, or and so, being able to see 2 starting rosters for one of those conferences play each other in a high-profile football game, that's awesome.
Well, I kind of like the idea, but I would like it more in the middle of the season, where your teams have figured it out. You have a guideline of what it is, and you can't go in there and say, "Well, it's the first game of the year, so they haven't got it figured out." Because everyone always says the best time to beat Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State is the first game of the year.
Well, I mean, but using that same argument about all our players opted out.
Well, not in
So-
the middle of the season when you
Well, I'm
still
talking
got a
about
chance to make the
I'm talking about
playoffs.
playing early versus in the middle.
So
probably not help my argument at all, actually.
my only thing with it being in the middle of the season, it'd be right in the middle of conference play.
Yeah.
Yeah, conference
That's
play.
my thing.
I was going to
Okay.
say the same thing. It would bring too much liability. It would
What-
bring too much liability because that's the thing. If you have it at the beginning of the season, it's the talk of injury bearings on a team's entire season is a little less than if you're in the middle of battling for your conference title.
Okay, then let's not even say middle. Let's say the 4th week. That's the first 3 weeks. You get your easy play out. You get your stuff figured out. You're not in conference play yet. You get your 4th week right before conference play. I think the first game of the season would lead to a lot of still bull crap of these t-shirt fans saying, "Well, Jalen Moreau hasn't had
No, right.
85 snaps yet to figure out his season."
But I
Moreau.
think
Well,
it would be cooler. I think it would be
That's what
cooler.
LSU fans call them.
I think it would be cooler to do these bowl games though at the beginning of the season, because what it would do is, let's say you got LSU playing against Ohio State or something like that, and let's just say LSU dog walks Ohio State. You know, if by chance LSU turns it around in their season going into the playoffs and everything, that's just going to make you have more anticipation to possibly see them in a playoff game, a
Well,
rematch
that's
of a
what-
playoff game.
And that's what I brought up with Grayson. I was like, like there could be a scenario where you have like a team like Missouri who is on that,
God.
13 Ole Miss, Missouri, who's on. I lost my concentration, Kyle.
Sorry.
But
Bass boosted Kyle over here.
it was so loud. All right, but like, so say
I
you have
think
your
he,
team
I
like
think he put
Missouri
his
and Ole
mic in his mouth, then coughed.
I'm sorry, BB. Continue.
No,
I'll
it's the
mute
middle of the
myself.
season. No, they need to be in the middle of the season.
But so like teams like Missouri and Ole Miss who might be on the bowl teams getting in, but they have the the neutral site win over Penn State, Ohio State. It could help their playoff resume to get in rather than playing ITT Tech.
Nick has raised his hand.
Nick, yes.
All right. My opinions. I agree, and I like that it would definitely help with the opt-outs. But I'm a play devil's advocate here. One, the thing that I don't like is the fact that this new team would be rewarded with this game based on a past team's, success or failure. And I also think it hurts the players that do opt in, because we always talk about the opt outs. But what we don't talk about are all the opt ins. For example, Bo Nix played in his against Liberty. He wanted one more game. And I get that's it's Bo Nix. He's had plenty of opportunities to play in games, but just those kind of players, they're missing out on their last game. But again, like, you've also seen, like, for example, 2012 and 2013 Auburn. 2012 Auburn won 3 games. 2013 Auburn went to the national championship. I mean, the difference between 1 year can be massive. Now
Well-
I get Georgia. They're going to be pretty consistent each year. But there's a lot of these outlier teams that, you've got about, I would say about anywhere from, I'd say about 10 teams each year that when the last top 25 comes out, you're like, holy shit, like last year they won 2 games or 3 games or 4 games. And then this year, but that can also work in it opposite, where you've got a 10-win season and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, they just won 5 or 6. I think that should not reward or punish the next year's team based on the last year's team performance.
So I guess the way I'm looking at it, it's less of a it'll be less of like a reward. It
Yeah,
would be more of like a showcase.
Yeah.
it's kind of, so it's not, exactly, like it's not more of like, oh, you won the Sun Belt, all right, you get to go play, and it's more like a grand opening of college football season.
I get what Nick's saying, though. That could be your last chance to play with your college team,
Well,
and now
but
you're taking it away.
But to that point, you could say the same, like, the way with, say like the people getting the 5th-year waivers through COVID.
Yeah, and one thing I
Nah.
would say is like, what's the biggest criticism we hear about bowl games is that they don't mean anything. Like that's one of the biggest criticisms you hear about bowl games is they're pointless. They don't mean anything. I think doing it this way gives them a bit more meaning than they currently do.
I mean, look at Texas. Look how like that win over Bama and Bryant Denny jump started their season.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
well,
And
you
I
all say
think
this
that's
what, Kyle? Go ahead, Kyle.
You all say this is a good idea until it's December 18th, and freaking Western Kentucky isn't playing Western Michigan, and you're all bored. So that's my complaint.
What?
I like to have the mid. I like to
The
have
playoffs
December
would be
games.
going at that point in time,
Yeah,
Kyle.
it'd be like the only.
Yeah, but you
game-
only get here. That's another thing. You only get a weekend of playoffs. I love bowl games because it could be Wednesday and December 20th, and you have a football game on.
Yeah,
Who's
there's
to
12
say? Who's
teams,
to
right?
say you have to do it that way with the playoffs?
Well, but that's the thing. The playoffs are still going to just be the weekend games. I enjoy a regular weekday bowl game.
You do realize we'd have 3 weeks of playoffs, right?
Yes, but I know that, but they're only going to be on Saturday and Sunday.
No, it'll be on Saturdays. Actually,
national
no, it's
national
delayed. It
championship
probably
game will be
fucking
on Monday.
Mondays.
So,
no.
What I'm saying is, I like a random matchup that is some freaking G5 team that is 6-6 against another G5 team that's 6-6. I love
We'll
those kind
get
of bowl
that.
games.
Because you're
You're a
disgusting.
sicko.
Yeah, and you're a
Yeah.
thicko that likes bowl games to maintain irrelevancy.
Well, hey,
I think
so Kyle, you would get that at the beginning of the season, then.
Yeah, but you still. Those are still going to be games on Saturdays. I like a spread out bowl game. And I think a majority do, because that is a time of year when a lot of people are off work and they're at the house and they're like, oh, what's going on? Let me go put on this random football game.
Nick has once again raised
And
his
it's
hand.
63-9. You're like, when's wrestling come on?
And you're going to, you say that, y'all say this until South Alabama doesn't get into the playoffs, and then you're like, well, damn, their season's over now.
Well,
And so
Hold on,
have
we
a-
are
Are
not
you saying?
there.
Are you
We
saying? Are you
not
saying
there
you wouldn't
yet.
be saying that too?
No, and I would
Yeah.
be. But that's the thing. If they have their bowl game at the end of the year, I have something to look forward to now.
Well, you know
compared
what?
to at the beginning of the year.
You know what you would have? You know what you would have at the end of the year? It would be the last game of the year. It literally just takes this game and puts it in the front.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
really
it's great.
Makes more
there's
spectacle
no
of it.
difference between South Alabama versus Eastern Michigan and South Alabama versus like Georgia State.
This is hurrying up for the end of the season, which sucks. Like right now, we're all like, oh man, college football is over. All we get to look forward to is the transfer portal and stuff. Now you want to cut that even shorter?
I would rather cut
Football
that
is bowl
demon
games.
shorter and be able to watch some quality bowl games than be having to scrounge for these terrible games that end up coming on. Who honestly wanted to watch Oregon play Liberty?
I did.
Liberty wasn't the best
Of
group of
course
class.
you
Well,
did.
that's a conversation for a different time.
I like. Maybe I'm wrong, but I like seeing what's next on each team's roster.
Well, so you would see what's next at the
God,
beginning
you
of
just-
the season.
You just f- my argument, Kyle.
No, you're going to get that at the beginning of the season anyways. I'd like to see a pre-vamp before they get into spring training as a starting
Let's do it in the
person.
heat of the
I'd like
summer.
to see that.
Okay, so you're telling me you would rather see Wisconsin play Wisconsin Whitewater instead of LSU the first game of the season?
With your argument, though, they would have played LSU in the first game of the season anyway.
No. Yeah, well, yes, but that's what he's saying is play the beginning of the season instead of at the end of the year, like end of the season.
No, I wouldn't rather see it in the beginning of the season because no
You just
teams are
said that.
prepared yet. No teams are prepared yet. I want to see it at the end of the season when the teams have prepared.
My hand is raised.
Okay, what's up, Nick?
All right. Once again, I'm not okay. I think we've had enough of the argument on whether that's a good idea or a bad idea. I think there are points to both sides. My point's not Kyle's.
All right.
So I still say, because I agree, going on way before the national championship playoffs, you've got these 6-6 versus 6-6, and you're not even seeing the starters because they're opting out. So you're seeing truly the 6-6 second string versus the 6-6 second string. I get that's bad. That's why my I guess solution. I still think like periodically and the time frame it should still be at the end of the season because it's more of a celebration. They've got the entire week leading up to it. You've got the seniors, the last year eligibility. I like that it's at the end of the year, but I think the wins should bump up drastically. A 6-6 team is not good. I would say a 7-5 team is not great or not very good. I think it should go up to 8 or 9 wins to be eligible for a bowl and have 20 bowls because the amount of bowls that we have now is insane.
All right, I'm
No,
gonna
I
stop
agree.
you right there, motherfucker. You try to
Yeah,
take
I'm
the
with you on
Pop-Tart
that.
bowl away from me?
No. Pop-Tart moves up to New Year's 6.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
talking about the
thank-
Venture
yes.
66 Bowl.
Yeah.
So yeah, but like seriously though, like the I like the Duke's mayo because somebody gets to get cream pied with mayonnaise, but
American tradition.
but at the same time though, like the amount of bowls that I saw this year that I was like, I didn't even know that was a bowl. Like never heard of it. And
I'm
every
yeah.
year it's that way now.
The Venture
And
Bowl,
so-
for instance.
How much money do you think it would
So-
cost to get us a bowl game?
Anyways, so that's what I'm saying is shut the up. I just think there should be less bowls. I think there should be maybe 20 bowls. And if only 9, and imagine that. If you're only letting in teams that have 9 wins or more, then those are all solid, good teams. And so they're playing another team that is also has at least 9 wins because I'm tired of seeing these 10-win, group of 5 playing these 6-6, power 5 teams. Like that's stupid. I think playing a 9-9 or a 9-3 versus a 9-3 will be a good game, and I think that's something to care for because also you got to realize like you've got teams that once they lose, like say they go 1-2, but then they have a resurgence and now they're 5-2. That coach is talking to them that's saying we only got to win one more game or we're in a bowl. You've got teams that are struggling that are like saying, hey, let's get to a bowl. South Alabama, like as much as I love them, they were fighting for a bowl game just to get in it. If you eliminate the 6-6 teams and you're saying, hey, if you get to 9 games, you can actually play in this game, it becomes more prestigious. And it's like, oh man, like we're one of the only, 15 to 20 teams that actually made a bowl this year because it's 9 wins, then I'm going to go play in that because I want to win it.
Yeah, I respect everybody's points except for Kyle's. Kyle's, I don't like change.
I appreciate
No,
it
it's
because
not
I
even
think I
changed.
was
Embrace
shut up,
tradition.
Kyle. I think I
Kinda
was the
crazy
only
live in
one that
progressive
actually
state,
opposed
hates
it that
change.
brought up valid arguments. So I appreciate everybody else. Kyle, if we had Van on this
Don't even shut the up. Listen, I am coming from the regular people who watch games. That's never been the
Canadians?
college. No, but that's never been the
Ain't
college.
nothing about you
Well,
regular.
Yeah, that's never been the college and just wants to watch football.
All right, I
Alright.
need you to take a breath and
This
take a
is-
sip and then talk.
This is your
In that
family.
order. In that order. In that order.
Okay.
I can imagine Kyle having the level of energy of a guy that's watching Oregon wax Liberty University in a
So-
bowl game at their grandmother's funeral.
Yeah, and he's sitting
Like,
there
I
going,
can
Alright.
imagine it.
Yeah.
Shut the before I come down there and shave Hitler mustache into you. Listen here. I am
Pause.
speaking for the people who have never been to college, who work a construction job, hate their wives, they come home, and they just want to watch some fucking
God.
football. All right.
So you're coming at it from the position of a
Why are you talking for
t-shirt
them?
fan.
Clip.
Yes, a t-shirt fan. The revenue at the end of the season they
Kyle,
get from
you're-
this is great. This just becomes a regular game now. Y'all are making bowl games regular games at the beginning of the season.
They're
which is
already
terrible.
like meaningless.
They have more.
There's no
meaning.
value. There's no value to a game at the beginning of the season compared to a
There's
bowl game.
apparently no value to a game at the end of the season either.
When all the
They
best
ain't
players
playing
have
in it.
left.
Terrible. Listen, you're already losing your best players when it's at the beginning of the season.
The future is
Now
now,
you're giving
old
no.
man.
Hold on. Now you're giving no prep time to these teams.
They have a summer. They have a whole
Dude,
summer to
they're,
prep.
six
No,
if
months,
they
Kyle.
did
best-
this, if
but
they
best
did
prep
this, it wouldn't just be a
That's
fucking
months.
surprise. They wouldn't say, "Oh, guess what? It's Thursday. Oh, Wisconsin, you're
No.
going to play LSU
The-
on Saturday. Be prepared." They would
The
announce
best-
it during the spring or the summer. Yeah, they would have prep time to play the fucking
Kyle,
game.
No,
Kyle, we
the
would
best
see
prep
teams.
time-
We would see
the
teams.
best-
We would see teams fresh out of summer camps.
No,
Fresh
but
out of
best
summer
prep time-
camps, ready.
This is
But
truly
best
an
prep
uncivil
time-
debate.
But best prep time is your whole season. You get game film on that team, and you know what they're running. Let me give you an example this year. Florida and LSU, if they would have played at the end of the year, it would have been a better game.
Counterpoint: you wouldn't have the game
What?
film, and it would create a more leveled playing field, resulting
it
in
wouldn't.
more likelihood of just a more balanced game.
How would you not? How would you
No.
not create a level playing field when you don't know what the other team's going to do, and they don't know what you're going to do?
Play
Seems
your
pretty
best,
level to me.
run your best offense and
Play your
defense.
best-
Because
play
you
your best
have
game.
prep time. You have
You
prep
have
time.
6 months,
This dude-
8 months before the game, Kyle.
just being-
Kyle, no,
I'm
Kyle's
telling
the
you.
type of
Year?
person. Kyle is the type of person like that says like if Batman faces anybody, the first question he asks is how much prep time does Batman have?
No, Batman's a stupid concept. He would
Does he
get
have-
fucking murked by Superman. I'm so tired of that stupid ass argument. Anyways,
Superman.
let me tell you.
Superman.
Is that
You know, let me
Spider-Man or Superman?
Let me
I
talk.
need to know. I need to know before.
Let me talk to you.
Yeah.
This is a terrible.
Don't give him a
concept.
yeah.
I can understand an SEC versus Big Ten like matchup they do every year, ACC against Big 12 kind of setup.
Oh, so you
But
hate
do
Group of
not get
Fives.
rid of the bowl games. The bowl games could so
I'm not
much revenue
talking
for
about
these
getting
Get
rid of
schools.
them.
them.
The bowl games, Kyle.
No, what I'm saying is, okay, I get it. You want to see these teams play at the beginning of the year. Why not have a rematch of the bowl game from the previous year going into the start of the next year? But
That
you keep the
creates
bowl
more
games.
liability.
There's so much revenue in these bowl games.
Kyle,
And
what
not
the
even on
rest
top of
of
that,
preseason?
it's such a big recruiting opportunity for these schools when they travel to these new locations for coaches to go out and meet with high schools in these locations.
I truly can't talk with him about this anymore.
So are you telling me that these people at the beginning of the year would still not pay those tickets to go see these fucking games, Kyle? Is that what you're
After
saying?
not watching any football for 8 fucking months.
That's the thing. You can charge more for a bowl game because of the name itself. It's marketing.
Kyle,
Yes.
do
And
you
that is
think-
damn true.
What is the best?
Brother, I
marketing
coulda
tool
gotten
than
in
having
South's
Alabama
game
play
for
Ohio
free.
State in the Rose Bowl week 0.
That's because South. Say that again.
What?
You talking to me?
What?
Yeah, what? Say it again.
No,
Just
no,
wait.
no, no. I was saying what to you, Kyle.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause
What you
South
said.
has terrible security. I go
Bro,
in
I
with
said
my
Alabama
8-year-old Jag
and
ID and I
Ohio
get in no
State.
problem. Anyways, Alabama and Ohio State, no matter what time of year they play, yeah, it's going to get good ticket prices. But if you have, let's say, the Rose Bowl isn't in the playoffs that year, you're still going to be able to sell that more, saying it's the Rose Bowl. You're going to get more revenue with the title itself.
Brother, if they announce these games in the spring, or hell, they could do it January. They could do it the day after the national championship game. You don't think people are going to prep to go to these games? They have
They'll
more.
go, but
Hey, Batman, they have more prep time this time. They can
No.
actually prep this whole trip.
you get more money off namesake of these bowl games. And on top of that, let's go back to the recruiting thing.
Nobody's
They have more.
changing the names.
But hold on, let's go back to the recruiting. You have more time to recruit when it's a bowl game at the end of the year. Because at the first game of the year, you're gonna have to go prepare for the next week, compared to a bowl game where you could take multiple weeks down there to recruit.
Not
They're
if
just
you're
not
Hugh
recruiting
Freeze.
at
He recruits
all.
all
Oh
the
yeah,
time.
Hugh Freeze
One
is
to
an idiot.
14.
All he does is buy strippers and hope for the best.
If you're
All right.
relying on bowl games as your recruitment strategy, that's already your fatal flaw.
Yeah,
No, you
and
have multiple strategies, but they're a good point to your recruiting. Let's say, like Wisconsin got to
Oh,
go
you're the
down
wrong
to
side of this.
Florida this
Kyle,
year to
Kyle,
no, that
do
y'all
more
y'all
people
are missing the bigger
people
picture here.
attend bowl games, or do more people watch them on TV?
It depends on the game. Because
No,
let me
no,
tell
it
you,
doesn't depend on the
hold on.
game.
Yes, it does. Because South Alabama against whoever they played, I can't remember, Western
I
Michigan or
guarantee you
whatever.
more people watched it on TV or ESPN Plus or whatever it was on.
Yes, but
than
listen,
people
that's
that
going to
were
be the
there.
I
same.
was there. There wasn't
That's going to
nobody.
be the same effect in the beginning of the year, and you can't even say that's wrong.
So you're saying it's negligible. You're saying it would be the same amount of people at the beginning of the year as it would be at the end of the year.
No, what I'm saying is at the end of the year you can charge more because it's f***ing traditional. You go off
No,
tradition.
You don't
Zero,
think
okay,
you
but
could
money.
charge
more.
just as much for it being of games in the season, Kyle?
No, I don't.
I can't talk with him about it anymore.
I can't
Well,
talk to
well, one more thing.
I
one
think
more
a solution would be if bowl
Would it be a
games-
final one?
If bowl games just had to get to 9 wins a game a season, and
So-
then
so-
bam.
That
The-
become the
the-
value of the bowl, the money melt to the game.
Well, last thing right here about about the whole thing, specifically about recruitment. A wise man once said that recruitment is 24/7, 365. So just throwing that out there. So it's if you're like Caleb said, if you're relying on the bowl game to recruit, then sounds like you need a better recruitment process.
Also,
I know
I'm
a
pretty
guy.
sure during
You're
bowl
part
game,
of PICAP Alf.
I'm pretty sure it's recruiting dead period during bowl weeks, anyways.
But okay, well, we're going to end this because everybody has turned on Kyle. So
I
mean,
did, and I was against it.
respect to Nick for putting together an argument, that is very well thought out.
don't stop.
It's a well thought out argument.
You're gaslighting.
You're just
Kyle.
so
We're about to go
blind.
into
You're
another
so
30-minute
blindsided
conversation.
by wanting
No,
something different that you're not going
Kyle,
to
shut, Kyle, please shut the up. Please shut
Kyle,
up.
take
Yeah.
You thought this was bad. Wait till next week's.
God, between Kyle's argument and Nick blending into a green screen and having a floating
Dude,
head
I've
every
got a
once in a
green
while,
shirt.
that has been tripping me out. He gets to a certain angle and it's just a floating head. But okay,
I'm screaming over here.
I am too. My neighbors probably hate me right now, but that ends episode 20 of the JEB Board podcast. Go listen to us on everything. Go check out all our socials. If you need those, go listen to the ends of the episodes previously. And until next time, don't get hard counted.